ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I welcome everyone to this session on the Gajendra Katha. We have, I think, finished up to 18 sessions. This is the 19th session. And we have finished up to the 10th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I humbly request the devotees to kindly open up the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 8th canto. Canto 8, chapter 3, text 11. We will read the verse, the translation purport, and then dive into the discussion. Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipashtita namaha kaivalyanathaya nirvana sukha samvide. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in a transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. Therefore, I offer my respect unto him. So just to get to know the words of the Sanskrit text and map it with the translation in English. Satvena pratilabhyaya. Pratilabhya, which means that personality Sri Krishna or Sri Vishnu who is obtained. As we know, the word labha means to obtain. Labhate in Sanskrit, to obtain. So, pratilabhyaya, I bow down to that person who is obtained. Obtained by whom? Satvena, by those who are in the mode of pure goodness, those who are in Vishuddha Sattva, those who perform bhakti, and those who are in the mode of Vishuddha Sattva, Sattvena, by that mood, pratilabhyaya, I bow down to that Krishna who is obtained only by those who are in the mode of pure goodness, completely transcendental to Sattva, Rajas and Tamas of this world. As a result of this bhakti that they are performing, Naishkarmyena Vipashchita, what happens is that this pure devotion ends up burning all past actions and their reactions, material actions and reactions. So the person becomes nishkam and nishkarma, which means all their past reactions and material sins and different kinds of seeds of the sinning propensity, not just the sins of the past, the activities, not just the reactions to those activities, but even the tendency to commit future sin is all destroyed. Vipashchita. Vipaschita means by one-pointed endeavor. By performing bhakti, after studying Shastra sufficiently, with lot of faith, if one is very determined, then what happens is one rises to Vishuddha Sattva. And as a result of which, they obtain the Supreme Lord, because that Supreme Lord is obtained by those in the mode of pure goodness, and the process of attaining the Supreme Lord makes one Naishkarmya, which means it burns down all past reactions. So when in the translation we see the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized, so the word realized here is pratilabhya, by pure devotion, and the pure devotion, the word for pure devotion is here is sattva, Vishuddha Sattva. And as a result of performing this, what happens? Pure devotion, who act in a transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga, that is Naishkarmyena Vipaschita. The Naishkarmya, to act on a transcendental platform without any tinge of material activities, Sattva, which ends up burning all past reactions, is Naishkarmya. So then the translation says, he is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness. That is the last line, Nirvana Sukha Samvide. The word Samvide means to give completely, to give completely. And Nirvana Sukha is transcendental happiness. So he gives this uncontaminated happiness. Now why it is uncontaminated, that we will talk about when we go deeper into the analysis. Then the English translation says, and the Supreme Lord is the master of the transcendental world. So the word for master is Natha, and the word for the transcendental world is Kaivalya. As we know, the word Kaivalya is also used for liberation. Kaivalyam narakayate tridasha pura akasha pushpayate durdantendriya sarpakala patali prokhata damshtrayate vishwam purna sukhayate vidhi mahendradisha kitayate yad karunya kataksha vaibhavavatam tam gauram evasthuma. This is a very famous verse from the Chaitanya Chandramrita, not the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but Chaitanya Chandramrita by Srila Prabhupada Saraswati, which Prabhupada would quote profusely in his purports, where Prabhupada Saraswati says, Kaivalyam narakayate, that for a devotee who wants nothing less than loving, affectionate service at the feet of Radha and Krishna, just to get liberated is as it brings in a sense of incompleteness as much as even going to hell. So that Kaivalya narakayate, narakayate means as if it is hellish. So devotees who get the favorable, affectionate karunya kataksha, the merciful glance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they desire nothing less than pure love for Radha and Krishna. And therefore, just getting free from all problems is considered to be a hellish thought process. So here, Kaivalya would mean the state of liberation. So in the context of the words here, Kaivalya could refer to, or is basically primarily, predominantly referring to the spiritual plane. So Namaha means I bow down. Kaivalya Natha. I bow down to that Supreme Lord who is the Lord of the transcendental world. And then the word is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So here the word Namaha is offering obeisances, and therefore all the words are in the mood of offering obeisances. Pratilabhyaya, Kaivalya Nathaya, Samvide, etc. So they are all in the mood of that Supreme Lord, whose lotus feet is worth our obeisances. So in this way, this is how the English maps to the Sanskrit. Now let's go to the purport, Prabhupada's analysis here. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yashchasmi tattvataha. If one wants to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth, one must take to the activities of devotional service. These activities are called sattva or shuddha sattva. This is what pure goodness we're talking about. In the material world, activities of goodness which are symptomatic of a pure Brahmana are appreciated, but the activities of devotional service are Shuddha Sattva. In other words, they are on the transcendental platform. Only by devotional service can one understand the Supreme. Devotional service is called Naishkarmya. Mere negation of material activity will not endure. Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam. Unless one performs activities with reference to Krishna consciousness, cessation of material activities will not be helpful. In hopes of achieving Naishkarmya, freedom from material action, many highly elevated sannyasis stopped their activities. Yet they failed and returned to the material platform to act as materialistic persons. But once one is engaged in consciousness movement, once one is engaged in the spiritual activities of Bhakti Yoga, one does not fall down. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore an attempt to engage everyone always in spiritual activity, by which one becomes transcendental to material actions. The spiritual activities of Bhakti Marga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam lead one to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as stated here, Sattvena Pratilabhyaya Naishkarmyena Vipashchita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. The Gopala Tapani Upanishad, text 15, says, Bhakti asya bhajanam tad iha amrita upadi, amutra upadi, nairasyenaiva mushnin manasaha kalpanam etad evacha naishkarmyam. This is a definition of the Naishkarmya. One acts in Naishkarmya when he fully engages in Krishna conscious activities without material desires to enjoy, either here or in the upper planetary systems, in the present life or in the future life. Iha amutra, anya abhilashita shunyam. When one is freed from all contamination and he acts in devotional service under the direction of the spiritual master, one is on the platform of Naishkarmya. By such transcendental devotional service, the Lord is served. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So this is a very beautiful verse. Contextually, this is where our discussion takes us. For those who were there with us in our previous discussion on Friday, Gajendra was talking about Namaha Atma Pradipaya Sakshane Paramatmane Namaha Giram Viduraya Manasah Chetasamapi. That, O Sri Krishna, you are way beyond the reach of our tongue, the descriptions of our tongue, the perceptions and the ability to conceive of the mind, and ultimately even our intelligence and our consciousness can't reach you. Vidura, Vi means very and Dura means far away. Krishna, your personality is so unlimited that with limited temporary mind and senses, we are not able to catch you. Therefore, Gajendra is saying, my Lord, we are making our attempt to call out to you, but ultimately I want to proclaim with a flower in my trunk that we cannot catch you unless you decide to catch us. So somebody could read that section of that verse of Gajendra's prayers, and they can probably get discouraged. They may probably get little sad to know that, well, through our tongue and through our senses and through our mind and through our intelligence, we cannot catch Krishna. So does that mean Krishna cannot be caught by anyone? Just like in our temples we see, there is a door which says no entry. That is the Pujari door. Inside is the altar and we have the offerings going on inside. And only those who are Pujaris and the Brahmanas who are serving on the altar, they are given entry. So on the door it is written, no entry without permission. But however, we see there are a few who go in there and they are the Pujaris. It's not that there is restriction for everyone. There is restriction for most of us. But for those who meet the qualification, they can go into the door. If it was a restricted entry for everyone, why would they even make a door there? They would just make a wall. What's the point in making a door and then locking it up saying no entry? Why would we even make a door then? But the point that there is a door and it says do not enter or entry is restricted or whatever, only pujaris are allowed, etc., which means the general populace cannot enter. But those who meet the qualification, those who desire to serve the deity, and those who are very favorably selected by the management on the basis of their spiritual standing, they may enter through that door and serve. Similarly, here we see Gajendra is saying you cannot be understood by our mind. Nayam atma pravachanena labhya na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. The Kathopanishad is describing that through sermons or through intellectual ability, one cannot understand Krishna. Na buddhya na cha tikaya. We cannot understand Krishna on the basis of the intellect that he gives us, nor can we understand Krishna through any exercise of our senses. We can understand Krishna only when Krishna lets himself in our purview. It is just like a very big elephant. A very big elephant on the top of which there is a mahout is walking down the street, and a child wants to touch the elephant. The child is so small and the elephant is so big that he finds it very difficult. But the child invites the elephant with so much love that the mahout inspires the elephant, and now the elephant not just sits down, but he sleeps on that street. Now, when he sleeps on the street, the child very easily can touch the head of the elephant. He can play with the ears of the elephant, which was impossible if the elephant was standing up there. So the size or the height of the child has not increased, but just his sincere desire to play with the elephant has got such a big elephant down on his knees. But that doesn't mean the elephant which is down on the knees is or on the street is anyway inferior to the elephant who was walking. It's the same elephant. So similarly, Krishna is the big elephant who's very mighty, and we are like small children. We can never touch his trunk or the top of his head or play with his ear. All that we can do like a child is have a very sincere desire, and then Krishna naturally being the very although being a mighty elephant himself, or let's say the killer of the mighty elephant, Kuvalayapida, Krishna in this context is compared to the mighty elephant. He may see the calling and the sincerity of the childlike innocent devotee, and he may come down he may lay down on the street, which means he may come in the purview of the senses of the child. That doesn't mean Krishna is getting inferior. It is just that he's still as strong as the elephant, but now he's become more merciful. The child cannot catch the elephant, but the elephant lets the child play with him by coming down on the knees. Similarly, in the example of the pujari, we see not everyone can enter inside, but those who meet the qualification, they can enter. So Gajendra in the previous verse is saying, Krishna, you cannot be understood by anyone on the basis of their ability. But however, you can be understood when you desire, you make the accessibility in the purview, in the domain of those who want you. And who can get you? The qualifications of someone who can understand Krishna has been mentioned in this verse. So just like only pujaris can enter, not anyone else, the previous verse says no one can enter the door, but this verse says, well, the pujaris can enter, and what qualities are needed, that is being described. So the contextual connection between the previous verse and this verse are twofold. First and foremost, we cannot catch Krishna. We can just jump and cry and weep with sincerity that Krishna desires to come in the domain of our sense perception. This is one. And second, what qualities should we have in our heart so that it attracts Krishna and we can understand Krishna to the best of our ability. So that has been described in this verse. So, as we know, in the previous verse, Gajendra has said, Namo Giram Viduraya Manashas Chetasamopi. My Lord, you are very far away from the ability of one's speaking exercise or the mental exercise or the intellectual exercise. What to speak of us failing to describe you, O my Lord? Even Anantashesh continues to describe you, and with all his hoods, with as long as he wants, with all the time in his hand, he continues to describe, and still he is not able to fully describe even one of the unlimited qualities of Krishna. It is described that Anantashesh wanted to offer service in the creation process. So he went to Brahma, and Brahma said, actually you can offer service. How you can offer service? You can assist Kurmadev by holding all the planets on the head. So Kurmadev holds everything. So you can stand on top of Kurmadev, and Ananta, you can hold everything on your head. So Anantashesh said, okay, this is a very wonderful service. I can hold all the universes on top of my head. But how long should I hold the universes? Brahma said, very simple. With your holy tongue, you start describing the qualities of Krishna. And whenever you get exhausted, you come to the end point of all of his qualities. That's when you can drop all the universes down. So the point is, Anantashesh continues to glorify the Supreme Lord unlimitedly, qualitatively, quantitatively, through all his mouths. As many Brahmas have come and gone, still Anantashesh continues to glorify. So the point is, Anantashesh never trembles in his service of holding the universes, because he never comes to an end point of the unlimited glories of Krishna. Rupa Goswami describes there could be a point in time when the scientists can count successfully all the atoms in this universe. There could be a point when they could analytically count all the raindrops and snowflakes, snow particles in this world. Maybe it is also possible for them to count all the drops in the ocean, drops of water in the ocean. But still they will not be able to count the number of qualities Krishna has. Although we say Krishna has 64 qualities, it is just to make sure that the book doesn't get very voluminous. Because if Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has the section of Krishna Gunamrita, the qualities of Krishna, then because they're unlimited, the book will run into innumerable volumes. But just to keep it very simple and for our understanding, Rupa Goswami has pointed out the 64 prominent ones. So what to speak of living beings like us, even Anantashesh, even Krishna himself cannot fully describe himself. Just like, for example, if a certain friend of mine, he speaks about his mother, and I hear the description of his mother from him, and then I repeat it to someone else. I am repeating the information, but I am not realizing the information that I'm speaking. When he speaks, he is speaking from his heart because he knows his mother very well. But I have not even seen his mother. And whatever I'm speaking would be a repetition of the information that my friend has offered. This is what we do. Krishna's qualities, unless they're realized in the heart of the devotee, speaking that will make very little sense. But however, repeating also in the spiritual realm is glorious, even if we have not realized it. One time I asked my Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, you said in the class that one should not speak things which one has not realized. So I have not realized anything. Should I stop preaching and speaking? Srila Guru Maharaj said, how do you speak? On the basis of what? So I said, I prepare from your classes and so many other senior Prabhupada disciples from their classes and from Prabhupada's books, and then I repeat as it is. Srila Guru Maharaj smiled and he said, this is preaching. He said, even if you haven't realized what you're speaking, by speaking continuously what you have heard from realized sources, that attracts Krishna's mercy, and one day you will end up realizing these things. So therefore, we speak about Sri Hari, although we say that our tongue cannot describe him, we are describing so that we repeat what has been repeated by realized souls, and this description purifies our heart and our tongue, and one day this information becomes transformation. This data of the head becomes realization and experience of the heart. So here Gajendra, in this verse, he is saying, my Lord, who can catch your attention? Who is that Pujari-like devotee who can enter through the door of Namah Giram Viduraya? Of all the people who can't understand you, instead of feeling depressed, Gajendra is saying to all the readers of the Bhagavatam, instead of feeling depressed that I cannot understand Krishna, please have hope by this verse. So who can catch Krishna? Pratilabhya. Who can catch Krishna? So the answer is Sattvena. Someone who is at the level of pure goodness. Now what is pure goodness? Srila Prabhupada very beautifully explains, we find in Canto 4, Chapter 3, Text 23 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada in the purport and in this verse, he defines what is pure goodness. For those who are just joining us, you can kindly open up Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, Text 23, where Prabhupada explains, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabdhitam Yad Iyate Tatra Puman Apavratah Sattve cha tasmin bhagavan vasudevo yadokshajo me namasa vidhiyate. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. So again, this verse is a proof that when someone worships Krishna in pure intention, pure goodness, then Krishna reveals himself to such a devotee. Now in the purport, Prabhupada very beautifully explains what this Vishuddha Sattva is. Prabhupada says the identification of the body with the soul is due to misunderstanding. As soon as one is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that one is in his pure, original, constitutional position. This state of existence is called Shuddha or Vishuddha Sattva, which means that it is transcendental to material qualities. Since this Shuddha Sattva existence is under the direct action of the internal potency, in this state, the activities of material consciousness stop. So here is a point of contemplation for all of us. Gajendra and also Prabhupada in the purport of the 4th canto and Gajendra here in the 8th canto, they're making the same point, that unless one has pure intention in the services that we perform, Krishna will not reveal himself. Now what does that mean? Well, what it means is our action doesn't matter as much as our intention behind the action matters. This is very, very important. So for example, let us say we are chanting japa. So we could chant japa with the intention of tamas, which is the mode of ignorance, which means, well, I have to chant anyway. I have promised my guru, so I have to chant. This is, somehow I have to finish. So that once I'm finished with my 16, at least I know all day I have for myself and I don't have to worry. Otherwise, it's a headache in my head that I have not finished my 16. So let me just get done with it so that all day I have for myself. Here, the chanting has been seen as a burden. It is not seen as vigraha, it is seen as a galagraha, which means that which holds the throat, as a compulsion. So this could be categorized as chanting japa under the mode of ignorance, where either one is fear bound or one is duty bound, where one feels that, oh, if I don't chant japa, I break my promise to my spiritual master. If I don't chant japa, I may get some reactions because I lied in front of the Vaishnav community during the time of Diksha. If I don't chant japa, I may have the negative repercussion. And because I don't want the negative suffering repercussion, therefore let me chant japa. So we're chanting japa either to be free from the negative influence that may come in by not chanting, or we are chanting because my spiritual master has kept such a big burden, a rock on my head. So let me just get done with it once and for all for this day. So these are the two thoughts as far as the tamas is concerned. Then in the mode of rajas, one could chant thinking that the holy name has been described as Nama Chintamani. Chintamani means a touchstone. All of our desires get fulfilled by chanting Harinam. If someone is chanting Nam Aparad, then all of one's material desires will be fulfilled. One can get money, one can get association of the opposite sex if that is what the heart is desiring. One can have a very comfortable material life in this world. So that is like using a touchstone, a diamond, basically to wash clothes and remove all the contamination and the stains in the clothes. That is like using the holy name, all pure holy name of Krishna for becoming big in this world. So that is the mode of rajas, where to fulfill our material desires, to be happy independent of Krishna. If I have to take shelter of Krishna, then so be it. It is described that Shishupal wanted the Sudarshan Chakra of Krishna. Why? So that he could take that Sudarshan Chakra and cut Krishna's throat. He wanted to kill Krishna using Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra. So we hear these in the stories and we sometimes even frown that that is pretty silly. But interestingly, that is our mentality in the heart. The Shishupal in our heart takes the chakra from Krishna, which means the holy name of Krishna, and we want to kill Krishna down, which means we want to live a life without Krishna consciousness, without prominence of Krishna in our life. We want to have our ideas and our thought process and our planning and our intention and our goals and targets in life And to meet those inner desires, we are chanting the holy name. So this is chanting the holy name in the mode of rajas. Then you could chant the holy name in the mode of sattva gun, which means let my heart be cleansed, let my mind be absorbed, let devotional qualities come in me, and all of these things, where again we are chanting the holy name with the primary desire of self-purification. We still have a consideration where I am chanting the holy name of Krishna, but let me get benefited in a sattvic way by that. By chanting the holy name, let me get empowered. By chanting the holy name, let me become a better person. This chanting of the holy name will destroy all my bad reactions. By chanting the holy name, may I become a better devotee, and so on and so forth, which still has a tinge of personal agenda there, which could be considered partially as sattva gun. But it is a very thin line, because these are not cut and dry. It gets very complex when there are multiple intentions in the heart behind chanting the holy name. So if it is very pure, and all that we want is to be a representative in the heart, in the hands of the acharyas, so that they can use us the way they want. The holy name is chanted not for personal gain or loss or protection from personal loss, but we are chanting the holy name only to give pleasure to Guru and Krishna. Where we think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world begging at the doorstep of all the devotees, Mukhe Hari Bol Bhai, Ei Matra Bhiksha Chai, that the only desire I have in my heart is, O Jivas of Kali Yuga, please kindly chant the holy name. Prabhu Agyaye Bhai Mage E Bhiksha, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Siksha. Because Krishna, in the form of a devotee, is begging at the feet of the Jivas in Kali Yuga, please kindly chant the names of Krishna. Therefore, to fulfill the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, selflessly, just for his pleasure, we chant the holy name. Krishna becomes very happy when the names of Radharani are chanted, and Radharani becomes very happy when the names of Krishna are chanted. So Hare means an invocation to Radharani, and Krishna is an invocation to Krishna. So by calling out to Krishna, Radharani is happy. By calling out to Radharani, Krishna is happy. So we chant Hare Krishna to keep Radha and Krishna happy. So if this is the intention, this is called Vishuddha Sattva, where one is chanting the holy name not out of fear of the reactions that may come by not chanting. We are not chanting the holy name with the desire to fulfill our material desires. We are not chanting the holy name with the intention to be duty bound as a human being or as a disciple, but we are chanting the holy name just to get some affection from our Lord, just so that we feel that affection, although so that we develop some affection for our Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Chaitanya Shikshamrita, he talks about 4 levels of consciousness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says one could be having an inclination out of fear. So that is the 4th class that Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions. One could serve Krishna on the 4th level with this desire of fear. Oh, what will happen if I don't do this? Therefore, fearing what will happen if I don't do this, let me do it. That is the 4th level or 4th class. Then higher than that, on the 3rd class, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, is the stage of not fear but of material desires. Then on the 2nd level is that of duty, and on the 1st level is that of love. So we can perform every service in one of these 4 intentions and inclinations. And a devotee is he who introspects every service very deeply in his heart. Why am I doing this? Externally, we can always justify for everything that we do. Like, for example, Danvir Goswami Maharaj was explaining in one class how in one certain temple, when he was present, they were inspiring the devotees to go out and do book distribution. And especially the Bhakta leader was inspiring, not technically Bhakta leader, but he was like the manager or the leader, the senior Vaishnava for all the brahmacharis in the ashram. So he was inspiring all the brahmacharis to go out and distribute the books. But at the same time, he said, it is a very tough ordeal, because as we go out to distribute the books as brahmacharis, just make sure that we distribute the books, and that's all the time that we give in the association of the opposite sex. If we talk to a Mataji for more than a few minutes, then you are actually putting your hand into fire because you can lose your brahmacharya. So the brahmacharis definitely agreed to this, and as they went out to distribute the books, many brahmacharis were spread out and they were distributing the books. And one brahmachari, as he was distributing, he was speaking to a couple. And it so happened that they didn't pay attention, but there was another girl who was paying attention to this brahmachari speaking to this couple. So eventually what happened was the couple walked off without taking a book. But this girl was interested and she was asking questions and the brahmachari was answering. It was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the leader, in a very polite way, he tapped on the back and he said, Prabhu, I think it's good time, I think we should go. And the brahmachari said, just give me another couple of minutes, I'm just wrapping up. And it so happened after a few minutes, when the brahmachari returned, the leader asked him that, did the Mataji buy the book? He said the Mataji did not buy the book, but she was very favorable. And he went on speaking about how the Mataji was very, very inclined to Krishna consciousness. So the leader, he started telling the brahmachari that, you know, it is not appropriate for someone in saffron cloth to spend a lot of time. You make an attempt once, twice, but then if they're not interested, you let go. Or you let another person or another Mataji take over and speak to a Mataji, but you focus on the Prabhu. And if you think in a few minutes that they're not interested, then you can find another sincere soul who's seeking the shelter of Krishna. So this brahmachari, when he was told this, he immediately tried to justify by saying, actually, Prabhu, you tapped, so I had to hurry up. But actually, we were having a very good conversation. I was not seeing her as a lady. I was seeing her as a conditioned soul who's suffering in the forest of this material world, where she is burnt by the fire of distress and there is no help. And she was asking these questions and I was answering. And at one point she told me that I have never seen anybody as intelligent as you. I wish I could ask you more questions and I wish you can become my teacher and my guru. So the brahmachari leader, he immediately stopped and he said that, Prabhu, if you would have continued a few more minutes, I fear you would have got married to her. So this is a real story that Danvir Maharaj was speaking about, how in the conditioned state, we have to be very, very careful of our intentions. We can always superficially justify our activities, but the Paramatma and the Jivatma, they are the two witnesses to the intention behind every action. People may be very enamored by the action that we are engaging in, but the intention, one has to very sincerely introspect. So if one is serving the specific limb of bhakti in tamas, in rajas, in sattva, namely if one is inspired by fear or inspired by material desires, the fulfillment of material desires, or is inspired by a mood of being duty bound to that position, then Gajendra is saying one will not get Krishna. One could be chanting japa, bahu janma kari yadi shravana kirtan, tabu tana pai Krishna pade premadhan. One could be worshipping Krishna, one could be hearing about him, one could be chanting about him. But if one is in the mode of sattva, rajas or tamas, then Krishna will not come in the purview of his calling. So this is the central message that Gajendra is instilling and nailing into our consciousness through this. So only those who are in Vishuddha Sattva platform, Sattvena Pratilabhyaya, Krishna comes in the domain of such living beings. Let's say our service is to read Shastra. We could be reading Shastra with the intention of overpowered by Tamas or Rajas or Sattva or Vishuddha Sattva. We have to introspect very sincerely. Are we studying Shastra so that we have arguments around, so that we can break down the thought processes of others, or we can establish ourselves as a leading preacher in the community or in the organization or in the country? Or are we studying Shastra just to collect information because we like to know newer and newer things and better information? Are we studying Shastra because we naturally like to read books, that is why we are inclined? Or are we studying Shastra so that our mind can be absorbed in giving pleasure to Krishna? Prabhupada has written so many books by sacrificing his night's sleep. So I want to offer my heart, my time, my energy, my eyes, my cognitive ability to understand and read and introspect and ponder. When Prabhupada says, you read my books, you scrutinizingly study my books, I live in my books. Therefore, we are studying with that desire that may Prabhupada be happy with my attempt. May my spiritual master be happy with this attempt. That I want to study these books sincerely to understand what is the heart of Prabhupada. What is the essence of all these prayers? What is the essence of all these stories? I want to know so that I can serve in the right mood without any deviation and go back to the feet of Sri Krishna. So if this is the desire, then it is Vishuddha Sattva. But we have to sincerely, very sincerely and seriously introspect and also repeatedly ask guidance from a senior Vaishnava that how can I improve this service of mine? How can I make this service more disciplined, more regular? And then how can I heighten and better the intention behind this service? It is very, very important, not how we look or what we do, but how we behave and what our intentions are. His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj in one class very beautifully explains a story which he said that he heard it from Prabhupada. So Maharaj explains that one time Krishna and Rukmini were sitting and honoring Mahaprasad. Well, Krishna, Rukmini offers and Krishna accepts it. So it becomes Mahaprasad. So they were accepting the remnants. And at that time, suddenly, through the forest, it is described, there was a sadhu who was walking past. And suddenly, by the will of providence, there was a dog which got agitated and started running behind the sadhu, barking with sharp teeth as if to bite the sadhu. And the sadhu started running, calling out to the names of Krishna. So immediately Krishna and Rukmini, who were in Dwarka, Krishna left he put down the plate and he stood up. And Rukmini said, "Where are you going?" Krishna said, "My devotee needs me, so I'm going." But immediately after a few seconds, Krishna smiled and he sat down and continued to eat. So after he finished his meal, Rukmini asked Krishna that, "I thought you got up to go and help a devotee of yours. What happened?" Krishna explained, "Actually, that sadhu was running for his life and he was calling out to me. But at one point he stopped. He picked up a stone and threw it at the dog, saying that if you can bark, I can hit back." Krishna said, "Then it was no longer my duty to go and help, because it was not a dog chasing a devotee, it were two dogs fighting with each other." So when Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj explains this point, that one can externally look as a sadhu, one can even call out to the name of Krishna, but how surrendered are we to the shelter that Krishna will come and protect? How much revengeful mentality do we have in our heart? What is the intention behind every action? Krishna really smells that with great scrutiny. And depending on that, depending on our sincerity, Krishna reciprocates. So when someone is at the level of Vishuddha Sattva, that platform in itself is called Vasudev platform. Why? Because once one comes onto the Vishuddha Sattva platform, then it is very easy for one to see Krishna face to face or get the association of Krishna. So why is this platform called Vasudev? Because Vasudev is he who very easily gives birth to Krishna. Krishna appears from Vasudev Maharaj. So therefore the Vishuddha Sattva platform in itself is called as the Vasudev platform or the Vasudev plane of transcendence. Because once one comes to that plane of very sincere Vishuddha Sattva, transcendental purity, then it's only a matter of time for Krishna to appear to someone in that state. Also we see in the Ramayana, we have one personality in Ayodhya whose name is Dasharath. And on the other hand, we have another person in Lanka whose name is Dasha Mukha or Dashanana. Both are Dasha, but there is a very big difference. Ravana is called Dasha Mukha because he has his 10 faces outward. These 10 faces represent the 10 senses that we have, the 5 karma indriyas or working senses, and the 5 jnana indriyas or knowledge acquiring senses. So these 10 senses that we as a living being have, when we use them to look for happiness in this world, then we are compared to Ravana, all of whose heads are looking outward for pleasure. So what happens? Ravana naturally, because his face is pointing outward, looking for pleasure, he is ready to do anything and everything to increase that pleasure, even if that means kidnapping the eternal consort of the Lord. He's called Ravana because he is ready to give stress and anxiety and tears in the eyes of another person for his self-benefit. So when we have our senses in acting in the mode of rajas and tamas, then it is looking outward for pleasure, and we end up hurting people and giving tears for our pleasure. As a result, we may not have 10 heads literally, but we are no less than Ravanas, whose 10 senses are like the 10 heads looking for pleasure in this world and who are ready to make others weep and cry for our personal comfort and happiness. As a result, this 10-headed Ravana lives in a city called Lanka, which is the embodiment, which is the emblem, the symbolic representation of sorrow. What is that thing that Ravana lacked? Ravana did not lack anything. All the things that we really look up to, we look up to education, we look up to aristocratic birth, we look up to magic, we look up to a skill set, we look up to beauty, we look up to strength, we look up to fame, we look up to position, we look up to wealth, we look up to beautiful women, we look up to very skilled, capable children, we look up to a wonderful big house, very good clothes, people who would bow down and listen to us without any resistance. Ravana had all of this in an unparalleled platform or an unparalleled manner. But his desire to enjoy this world with all his faces representing the senses looking outward was the cause for his downfall. On the other hand, we see in Ayodhya is Maharaj Dasharath. Dasha means 10 and Ratha means chariot. One meaning is that he was so strong that he could fight 10 Kshatriyas in 10 different chariots all at the same time. Another meaning of the word Dasharath is he who could take his chariot and drive it in the 10 directions. The 10 directions are north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and up and down. These are the 10 directions in the plane that we live in. And his chariot could move in all directions and be victorious. So that is also the meaning of the word Dasharath. But the most interesting meaning of the word Dasharath in context to Ravana is that Ratha also means our senses. And Dasha Ratha means the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 working senses, and all these chariot-like senses. He who controls it very well, he is called Dasharath. And as a result, anyone who controls these senses, he naturally lives in a city called Ayodhya. Ayodhya is that place where there is no yuddha. And even if there is a yuddha, it remains undefeated for as long as 60,000 years. So which means our consciousness becomes Ayodhya, which means very peaceful without any conflict. So someone at the level of Sattva Rajas Tamas can act like Ravana with 10 heads outward, the senses looking for pleasure in this world, and as a result of which they can never get the Supreme Lord. But someone who's like Dasharath, who has controlled his senses and is working on the Vasudev platform or Vishuddha Sattva, what happens is that such a person lives in a city of his consciousness called Ayodhya, which means he is always peaceful. And most importantly, to someone like that, of that caliber and consciousness, the Supreme Lord Sri Ram appears as a child. So therefore, this platform of Vishuddha Sattva is called as Vasudev platform, because it's the same Vasudev who is Dasharath Maharaj. Just like Ram appears from Dasharath Maharaj, Krishna appears from Vasudev. So that the meaning is, if someone is at the level of Vishuddha Sattva, then it is only a matter of time. Very quickly, the Supreme Lord appears as a child to someone who is so sincere. So Gajendra is saying, O devotees, O readers of the Bhagavatam, O readers and listeners of this Gajendra Stuti, please introspect every single activity and every single service that we perform. How can we upgrade our consciousness to Vishuddha Sattva? Naturally, we see, as we introspect every single aspect, because of the act of seeing within, we will find the dirt. We will see how a mirror is shown by the Paramatma in front of our eyes to the extent of our sincerity, that even when I'm accepting prasad, I could accept prasad in any of the modes. I could accept prasad, oh, this is so tasty, let me have another rasgulla. Oh, this is so wonderful, let me have it. In this way. One could either accept prasad in this way, or one could accept prasad and complain that, oh, this is not properly made. Here salt is more, here salt is less. This is not properly cooked. This has become overcooked. In this way, we are looking at the remnants of the Supreme Lord's plate, but we are introducing our consciousness, which is filled in the lower modes, in our perception of that prasad. However, Vishuddha Sattva means how merciful is Krishna. Krishna is giving the remnants straight from his plate so that I can nourish this human body, and with the energy that I get, I can call out to Krishna's names. Oh Krishna, you're so loving and kind that you are giving your remnants, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Sharira avidya jal, jada indriya tahe kal, jive phele vishaya sagare, tara madhye jibha ati, lobhamay sudurmati, take jita katina samsare. It is very difficult to win over the tongue. Then what is the way out? Krishna bada doyamay. Krishna is very, very merciful. Kori bare jibha jay. He is given a process by which we can win over the tongue. Swa prasada anna dilobhai. Oh brothers, he has given remnant from his own plate. Therefore say anna amrita pav. Take this Mahaprasad, remembering the Supreme Lord. And as you accept, use that energy to Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gunagav, to give it back to the Supreme Lord. You take the water from the Ganga and you offer it back to the Ganga. So we take remnants from the plate of the Lord, gain energy to glorify him. Preme dako. And then finally, when love of Godhead has to be achieved, dako, cry and weep and beg Sri Chaitanya Nitai as Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai. So this is a very introspective, very meditative prayer, which oftentimes we very quickly, briskly sing through just before prasad. Sometimes it is also that let's not repeat it as a call and response, because that delays the prasad from reaching us so much. So therefore, this has to be understood that even when we are accepting prasad, even when we are making garlands, even when we are serving the deities, even when we are doing kirtan, when we are speaking Hare Katha, we are dressing the deities, we are cooking for the devotees. It could be anything. It could be even sweeping the floor. See, here's the interesting thing. When Prabhupada says in one purport that someone who is sweeping the floor of Krishna's temple is also very dear to Krishna, what does this mean? Oftentimes when we don't understand this Vasudeva concept of Vishuddha Sattva, we are seeing that I want this service over that service. I want to speak Hari Katha on the Vyasasan because that is the place of prominence. I want to lead Kirtan at the prime time when there are more people around, so that I can be the center of so many people's call and response. The same thing if I'm given a slot in the afternoon when people are not around, I may not be so happy. Similarly, I want my garland to be offered on the deity. I want to make it on a Saturday so that it's offered on a Sunday morning, so that when people come on the Sunday feast, they can see that who has made this wonderful garland. So we can externally perform these services, but what is the intention? What is the inner calling behind any of these services is something that we have to introspect. So somebody who's sweeping the floor of the temple, thinking that Krishna, I am so fortunate. In Goloka Vrindavan, who is sweeping the kunjas of Radha and Krishna? They are the Manjaris. They are the maidservants of Radharani. The Manjaris who come down as acharyas, headed by Rupa Goswami, they actually perform the service, also perform the service of sweeping with a golden broom, the transcendental dust of the kunj of Radha and Krishna. So how fortunate am I? I'm getting the replica of the same service in the same temple, which is like a kunj, where Radha and Krishna are standing on the altar. So if the meditation and the origin of the service is clear, then one is not very much concerned about the external act of the service, but one is very happy in the inner intention behind that service. And that is what Krishna is ready to accept. One could offer $1,000 or $10,000 or even $1 million in the service of Krishna. But if the intention is not selfless, 100% selfless, to the extent we are pure, to that extent Krishna is happy. This is a very known fact. So therefore, Gajendra is in the first line making it very clear, Sattvena pratilabhyaya. My Lord, you are attained only by someone who is in Sattvagun. Now, the interesting fact is this process of bhakti, when it is performed at this stature and this level, it is called as Naishkarmyena Vipaschita. Very, very beautiful. What this actually means is the word Naishkarmya can have two meanings. One meaning is that platform where there is no karma, there is no reactions, so to speak. Or the second meaning could be, Naishkarmya could also mean expertise in the activity. So these are two meanings. We want to take the first meaning first, and we can take the second meaning starting tomorrow. So what it means that Naishkarmya could mean Nigata Karma Yasmat, which means that place from where all the karmic reactions have left. So if someone really absorbs himself in the service with an attempt to come to Vishuddha Sattva platform, then the Brahma Samhita describes Karmani Nirdahati Kintu cha Bhakti Bhajam. By serving the Supreme Lord with bhakti, then Karmani Nirdahati, all the past reactions get burnt to ashes when it is done selflessly for the Supreme Lord. Classic example for this would be, let's think of a soldier who starts taking his gun and shooting on the street randomly and crazily and independently. What happens is that that soldier could have a death penalty, although he works for the army. On the other hand, the same soldier, if he's on the battlefield and he starts shooting and pumping bullets on the opponent, it's possible he could be given the Paramveer Chakra. He could be given a medal, an accolade from the government. Externally speaking, the activity of shooting bullets from the gun, whether it's on the street or whether it's on the battlefield, it is still the same. But because on the battlefield, the soldier is not doing crazily out of his own mind's desire, he is doing it 100% for the government. He's ready to die, but he's ready to serve the government in the line of thought process of the country. On the other hand, on the street, he's acting independently, and that same activity which gave him Paramveer Chakra could land him in trouble with a death penalty. Another example could be, if someone goes into a mall and starts pulling things off the aisle and filling it up in a shopping cart, and as he's leaving the mall, he fails to pay the bill. Immediately, there are alarms which go off, and then there's ringing, and then the security comes in to hold on to a person who wants to put things in the cart but is not ready to pay. So he becomes a criminal. He becomes an offender who's trying to run away with theft. On the other hand, when he's caught, if he has a handwritten letter from the owner of the mall saying that I have sent so-and-so person in this mall on this day to get these things, and these are my personal desire, and he stamps with a seal and he signs it off, then this person doesn't have to pay and he is let go because he is doing it for the owner of the mall, in contrast to stealing and running away for his own self. So in both cases, he is not paying. But when he is running away, filling up all these commodities for himself in the shopping cart, then he is probably even arrested for theft. But when he does it on behalf of the owner of the mall, then he is let go with a smile. The security will let go because he's doing it on behalf of the owner of the mall. So these two examples teach us, when someone does an activity independently for himself, then there is an implication. The soldier can get punished, and the man with the shopping cart can get severe reactions. But however, when it is done selflessly on behalf of a higher superpower, then the person, although it is the same activity, he is not implicated in the punishment. Probably he is given better treatment. Just like the soldier is not just not punished, but he is actually recognized and even awarded with accolades and medals for his performance or for his participation. So similarly, when someone on the level of pure goodness, Vishuddha Sattva or the Vasudev platform, serves Krishna, externally in this world, the activity may look very material and temporary. But because he is doing it on a platform selflessly for Krishna, there are no karmic reactions. The material universe, the laws of material nature, don't bind him up with different karmic suffering implications in the future. Just like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was shooting arrows, but because he was doing it selflessly, under the auspices and guidance of Sri Krishna, he was not caught in any material karmic implication because he did it as an offering to Krishna. So therefore, Bhagavatam describes that when someone performs pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Krishna, Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dhunvanti karsnena niharamiva bhaskara. The 6th canto, 1st chapter, text 15 describes, just like little rays from the sun early in the morning at dawn time is enough to completely tear apart all the fog which has been collected overnight. Similarly, little rays of performance from the sun of Vishuddha Sattva Bhakti, they can tear apart all the fog-like karmic reactions from past life. So one must be completely convinced that when we serve Sri Krishna, that bhakti will not just cleanse us of all our past karmic activities and reactions, it also cleanses the sinning propensity in the heart, and not just not suffer, the living being is blessed by the grace of the Supreme Lord and he gets the Parambir Chakra of the grace of Sri Krishna. So in this way, we can understand Naishkarmyena Vipaschita. The word Vipaschita means our loving intention, our one-pointed spirit to serve the Lord. So Gajendra in this phrase is saying, my Lord, pratilabhyaya, you are obtained only by someone who is sattvena at the platform of Vishuddha Sattva as far as his intentions are concerned. And by those intentions, Naishkarmyena Vipaschita, he has become freed from all his reactions by his faith and absorption in your service. So this is the first meaning of the word Naishkarmyena, in fact. So there is another meaning, and of course there are 2 more lines in this verse, but we will discuss that tomorrow, same time, going from 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time on the same platform of Facebook Live. I really want to thank all the devotees for lovingly participating and hearing this discussion attentively. I am simply repeating, I have not realized these things. I don't serve Krishna at the platform of Vishuddha Sattva. I am struggling with Rajas and Tamas as my intentions and inclinations for all the service. So I request devotees 3 things at the end of this discussion. First and foremost, I request all the devotees to kindly pray for me so that I can realize these theoretical, abstract, philosophical things that I'm trying to speak, and I can really serve Krishna on that platform of selflessness. Second, I would request all the devotees to kindly introspect all our services and the intention behind those services. And 3, I would request all the devotees to continue keeping faith and so much attentive association and participation in this ongoing series. I would be very, very happy to have more continued association of all the devotees. So please stay tuned. Please come and let us read Bhagavatam another day, another night tomorrow to continue from where we left tonight. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.